Alright, this is a look at the newspaper comic books that were issued by the South Middlesex News, which was a newspaper out of Framingham, Massachusetts. And this newspaper, along with other newspapers in North America, briefly used the comic book format as the format of choice for their Sunday color newspaper comic strips. There's more information about papers that did this at my website, nemsworld.com. So if you want to know about others, just go over there and take a peek. But this particular paper, the Middlesex News, used the comic book format from March 19th, 1978 up through May of 1984. And the issue that we're looking at right here is Sunday, September 3rd, 1978. And that's Volume 1, Number 25 that we're looking at. The Spider-Man newspaper strip started in early January 1977. And from what I can tell, the Middlesex News published Spider-Man right from the get-go. So when they transitioned into using the comic book format, Spider-Man transitioned right into it with him, which is ironic, right? He's a comic book character, and here he is being issued as a Sunday newspaper comic book. So, for example, if we take a look in this issue here, what we see is that, well, first of all, you'll notice the covers on these are the same quality kind of pulp paper that's used on the interior of comic books. So you don't get that nice shiny wraparound cover that we're familiar with most comic books in North America. So let's take a look and see what we have inside. We've got Kelly and Duke, and then we have the Born Loser. We have the Heart of Juliet Jones up here, Miss Peach here, and then the Bossleys and Stanley. Barry's World up here, Tumbleweeds, Grok, Eek and Meek, and Tarzan, Frank and Ernest, Ferdinand, Priscilla's Pop, Our Boarding House. Really nice colors on this page. Very, very bright. Motley's Crew. And then we have some kind of infotainment stuff here with the Good Earth Almanac. And then we have Boner's Ark, Winthrop, and Kathy. And we're now at the halfway point. And you can see the staples in the binding here on the center page. There's a staple here and a staple here. And these books were 32 pages total, which is pretty good length. A lot of the comic books that were issued by newspapers would run anywhere from like 24, well actually anywhere from 16 pages up to 32. So this is one of the thicker ones at 32 pages. Kathy, and over here's Captain's Gig. We've got nice Popeye. And some fun and games with Cappy Dick. And then here is Spider-Man. And you'll notice that this panel right here is the one that they chose to enlarge and use on the cover. So there he is there, and that's that same panel. And what they would do is they would put in their own wording for the cover. So as we can see, you know, in the panel here, he says, "Come on, Spidey Strength, don't fail me now." But for the cover, they have him saying, "Rats, my news comic book got stuck in my web." It's cute. So this is John Romita artwork, and in theory Stan Lee writing it. I mean, that's the caption up here says Stan Lee, John Romita. I don't know if Stan was actually writing it, or you know, there's a ghostwriter. This page is interesting because it's all Walt Disney Productions. I think somebody at the Middlesex News newspaper absolutely loved Disney and the Disney comics because they feature quite a bunch of them. For example, we have Scamp up here, we have Mickey Mouse down here, and then we have Disney's Treasury of Classic Tales, which at the moment featured Pinocchio. This title, if you're not familiar with it, you can look up on the web. They would do stories of a particular Disney property, and they would run, for a few months, and they would run on Sundays only. And then, once they reached the conclusion of the Pinocchio storyline, it might be like 2-3 months worth, then they would move on to something else. And what was quite common in the 70s and 80s is that they would run newspaper strip adaptations of movies that were going to be coming out. So, like the one that always sticks in my mind is when The Black Hole came out in 1979, they hired Jack Kirby to draw an adaptation, and they ran it as under this headline, which is Walt Disney's Treasury of Classic Tales, and it would say Black Hole. I think I've got an example that I can show you later in the video. Okay, here's the, I guess, Warner Brothers page, right? Well, no, Hanna-Barbera, actually. Sorry, over there. Warner over here with Bugs Bunny, and then Hanna-Barbera over here with Yogi Bear. And then here's more Hanna-Barbera with Flintstones, and man, the colors on this page are just great. Actually, both these pages. So again, here's Disney's Donald Duck. So again, man, every Disney strip that I can think of ran in here. I'm not a big Disney fan, but it just seems like every one that was available they were running. Here's a Red Eye. And then we're getting towards the end. We've got Heathcliff over here, Animal Crackers, and Ziggy. And then we have Moose Miller, Moon Mullins, and Mark Trail. This is like the M page, I guess, right? Every strip that begins with an M appeared on this page. Mark Trail always annoyed me. These Sunday strips always annoyed me because I'm kind of a fan of like the continuity strips or the serial strips, the ones that aren't gag strips. I like those. And Mark Trail, Monday through Saturday, would be like, essentially like a soap opera kind of serial strip. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it, continuity strip. But for the Sundays, it was just a nature infotainment strip, It's okay. I mean, I'm even a big animal lover myself, but I kind of wish that these Sundays actually were part of his Monday through Saturday continuity, and that they didn't, diverge into these nature studies. But yeah, what are you going to do? There it is. And then on the back, they would typically run an advertisement, and here's an ad basically trying to recruit reliable and aggressive boys and girls to deliver the newspaper. Okay, so as I mentioned, this particular issue was Sunday, September 3rd, 1978, and it's volume 1, number 25. So this was only the 25th time that they had put out their Sunday strips in the newspaper comic book form. So let's go back to the very beginning and take a look at how this started. And here we have, let me make sure I don't get too much glare on that. There's the first one. This is March 19th, 1978, and that's a Winthrop panel that they enlarged and they put on the cover. And it's interesting, at this point, they didn't add any of that dialogue, that dialogue that kind of self-promotes the newspaper. They didn't have it. They just simply went with a drawing. Now you'll notice right here, that's someone's arithmetic that was done by hand with a pen. So this particular issue is, basically defaced with this writing right there. So that wasn't from the printer. That's whoever owned this prior to me had actually needed a piece of scratch paper, and they decided to use the cover of this Volume 1, Number 1. On the inside, it's fine, though. There's no further writing or anything. Another thing I should point out about these is that they're tall. They're like a Golden Age comic book width, but they're a little bit too tall. They're like almost magazine height, but Golden Age comic book width. So for these that, I bagged and boarded these, and what I had to do was I got Golden Age bags, but I couldn't find a board that would extend up to give me some protection at the very top. So I had to custom cut my own boards. So what I did was I took magazine boards. I didn't have to modify the height. I left the magazine board height as it is. But I trimmed it on the side over here. So I took a magazine board, trimmed the right-hand side to make it fit down to be a Golden Age comic book width, and then I just had to bend the the little flap. It doesn't go. I think you can kind of see it there. I had to bend it so as best I could to get enough of a lip. I mean, there's about that much lip right there. It's not too bad. And then I taped it down. And I used the tape trick that was taught to me by Cougar Comics. Thank you, Cougar Comics. It's a brilliant tape trick. Okay, so that's volume 1, number 1, and I got a bunch more of these to go. So let me just see if I can just kind of do these as quickly as possible here. Here's volume 2, number 2. And what's interesting, actually, let's look at this in comparison to the first one. They seem to be struggling a little bit with finding their way as far as how they're going to format the look of these. Like, I mean, okay, so here they're out the gate with this South Middlesex News comic book, and then they decide, oh, this doesn't have enough color up here. So then with issue 2, they add the red here and they add the gold there. Okay, I get that. Looks good. But then here's the 3rd issue, and it's kind of like a total restructuring of the format. So you can see they used a panel here from Kathy. This is, I believe, Kelly and Duke. And now that we see here the introduction of this custom dialogue that's added by the local newspaper, basically to promote, what's going on. And this was Kathy actually joining the paper. So her balloon, her word balloon here says, "Hi, I'm Kathy, and today I joined the cartoon family of the South Middlesex News. You can learn more about me inside or in today's Family Life section." And oh my gosh, am I on the cover? Gee, I never thought. Give me a sec to fix my hair. It's cute. And then down here, there's a little byline down here. It says, "Introducing Kathy, our new comic page star." I'm not even much of a fan of Kathy, but I kind of like the way that they did that. I thought it was nice. So, as I mentioned here, a whole new design up here with new coloring. And this is really interesting. Let me see if we can zoom in on this. What we have here is, you see the kid there reading the comic book, and he's got stacks of comic books behind him. So they're very aware of the collectability of the comic book format, and that's why they're now adding some of these comments. Like this one over here says, "Collect your news comic book every week." Okay, we get that. But then they start promoting it up here saying, "Start your own collection. Save your news comic book each week. Back copies available." Which is so funny to me. Back copies. Not back issues, because maybe that wasn't in the vernacular or commonly used by someone at the paper, but back copies available. So they're definitely trying to key into, the market of especially kids that would be collecting and reading comic books. And I think they were hoping that every kid in the area would go to their parent and say, "Look, we have to subscribe to at least the Sunday edition of the Middlesex News because there's a free comic book inside. I've got to have it. Okay, moving on. Okay, so we can see here, changes in the heading, format, and now here comes the 4th issue. We've got yet another change. This time, in 3 issues. Look at this. In 3 issues, they've changed the format of the heading 3 different times. I don't know why. I just love that. I just find that so interesting. Okay, so here's the 4th issue, and we've got the Warner Brothers cover. We've got Elmer Fudd, and we have Bugs Bunny. And actually, I love this one. The custom dialogue here. He said, Elmer Fudd starts off with his word balloon. He says, "Dumb wabbit, I'll prove even you can fit in these new comics. Come on inside." And then Bugs replies, "Doc, this I gotta see. If the news has made me smaller, then I'm also thinner. And if I'm thinner, bring on the carrots." I don't know. That's great. Okay, again up here, start your own collection. Save your news comic book every week. Back copies available. So, yeah, all right. So they seem to have stuck with this for a little while, because then the next 2 issues here, we've got issue 5 and issue 6. They stuck with the same format. And then, look at that, folks. There you go. Another Spidey This actually is the first Spider-Man cover, because I started the video off with the 25th issue, and this actually is issue number 7, so this would be the first time that they put Spider-Man on the cover. And again, that's a Ramita issue, and it's got custom dialogue. He's saying, "Sorry I've scared you. I'm rushing to get my copy of the News comic book. I hope there's still some left." And I don't know, that's sweet. I mean, I just love that they did that. It is just great that they got Spidey on the front. And then we've got Heathcliff on issue 8. And there's issue 9. Here's issue 10. Okay. Get those out of the way. Issue 11 with a nice Flintstones cover. And then things change a little bit again with the cover, because they now introduce this red cover, which they would stick with. This format they stick with for quite a while. They basically they're done with this. They're going to stick with this now. Got another Heathcliff cover, and again over here we've got with bullets. Get your own News comic book every Sunday. Back copies available. Save them, trade them. Save them, trade them. Okay. That's number 16. Oh, by the way, there was a jump. I should point out. This was issue 11. This is issue 16. I don't have the ones in between. So, okay. There's 16 and 17. 17's got another Bugs Bunny cover. Bugs the Fortune Teller. And then we go to 18 and 19. Oh man, check out the cover for 19. I love it. This is a color photograph. This is the only photograph cover that I've ever come across, not just for the Middlesex News comic book, but for any newspaper comic book ever. I've never seen another photograph cover. And what this is the it's one of the editors, or one of the employees here, is this gentleman. And he's basically handing over a prize to this young lady. And the young lady was one of the winners out of the Cappy Dick contest from some issues previous. And so she's down at the South Middlesex News. You can see that's their plate, their title to the company in the background. He's handing her, she won like this camera, and he's handing her the camera. It's just great. I love it. Like I said, it's the only photograph cover that I've ever seen on any newspaper comic book. Okay, so that was 18 and 19. There's 20, and there's 21. Now 21 has a uniquely formatted cover up here, and this is the only issue that I'm aware of that they use that. So right away after 21, they go right back to this format again. Here we go. Boom, right back. Now you guys might notice that 21 is folded really off center. You know, you see how the W in War Collectibles is. Let's see if I can get a close up of that. You see how that's folded, you know, really crazy. Well, here's one of the things. If you want to get into collecting these newspaper comic books, there's so many, like, there's so many trimming errors, you know, from the way that they cut it, to stapling errors where like they didn't get the staples aligned correctly on the binding, to folding errors. So it's really common. I would say like 10% of the books that you come across are going to have like a very noticeable fold issue or staple misaligned, or something like that. I mean, you can see this 21, because of this crazy fold, because of the bad fold along this side, it ends up with that kind of, see how the back pages are showing through, the cover doesn't wrap all the way. It's just super, super common. The other thing you'll run across too is like you'll open up a comic book and you'll find that they only put in one of the two staples. That's another one that's really common. And it's just that way. It's like a lot of these newspapers were just they were cranking these out essentially. I think these were just thought of as freebies, because people were just buying the paper, and this was just kind of a supplement. So there wasn't that much quality control, and also a lot of these newspapers weren't familiar with how to issue a comic book format. They were familiar with using a broadsheet format or a tabloid format. They didn't know too much about how to crank these out. Okay, here we've got 23 and 24. I think that's another Kelly and Duke right there. And you can see they're sticking with that header. Okay, and then 25 is the Spider-Man, which we already looked at. And then that's going to take us to 26. Hang on just a second. Boom, there's 26. And there's 27. 27 has some, again, it's kind of, it's wrapped fairly well and aligned well, but the cut on this side, the trim on that side of this issue is a little bit off. And, sometimes you'll come across these and the trim, it's like it's not even close to the size that they were going for. It's like they missed the trim. Like sometimes instead of the comic book being this wide, it's actually over here on the right side. It's even wider a few pages. Like a couple pages didn't get trimmed correctly. And I have to admit, I've even gone in and trimmed those down because I don't think of it as I'm not like trying to restore the comic book, or I'm not trying to trim off what was originally intended to be there. I'm trying to trim off what wasn't intended to be there. There's 28. There's 29. All these have Spider-Man in it, by the way. He's in every one of these issues, just like I showed you at the beginning. I'll try to go a little bit quicker here because I know this is dragging out. There's 30, 31. There's 32. Now here's an interesting thing. Okay, here is a little bit of a change here on this 33. Basically, they've been putting volume 1 number, whatever it is, over here, and for some reason when they get to 33 they shove it up here. I don't know what that's about. And then over here's the date. It's like they took out this little band right here where they were putting the date, and they decided to start putting it up here. Now this is interesting. This is October 29th, 1978 that this was issued. Okay, from Marvel Comics perspective, well, actually, let me just show you the ad and then I'll talk it through. So here you can see an ad because the Hulk is going to be coming out as a newspaper comic strip the following Sunday. And so they're promoting it. And down here it says, let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger so you can read it. All right. The Incredible Hulk is coming our way. See him daily beginning October 30th and in living color in the South Middlesex News comic book starting November 5th. Yeah, because October 30th is when, Hulk would make his debut. Let me just leave that up there and I'll talk through this. Essentially, Marvel introduces Spider-Man as a newspaper comic strip in January of 77. And it does well. So they're like, let's introduce more of these comic book properties as comic strips. So the next one that they introduce is Howard the Duck, and that happens in June 6, 1977. Howard doesn't fare so well. So next up, they're preparing two. They're preparing to launch Conan in September of 78, and Hulk is under preparation for fall of 78 as well. And basically what they do is they realize that they're going to end up having to shut down and cancel Howard the Duck as a newspaper comic strip. So they arrange it with the syndicate so that the day that Howard the Duck stops, Hulk would then start. Howard the Duck would stop on October 29th, and Hulk would start the following day on October 30th. And the thought was that any paper that was still printing Howard the Duck would just migrate right into printing the Hulk, and that any paper who had no interest in Howard the Duck might come on board with Hulk. So they arranged it just like that. So basically, Howard the Duck was never carried by the Middlesex News, but I was just pointing out that since this is October 29th, in other papers that would have been the last Howard the Duck, and then the following day, which would be October 30th, would be the very first introduction of the Hulk as a daily on Monday, October 30th. Okay, so here's the ad saying, hey, we're going to get Hulk next week. Get those out of the way. Alright, so here's the following week. And that's a panel from a Tarzan that they blew up and they put inside. And basically, when we look inside, we see all the usuals. Here's the Tarzan, and there's, I think it's that panel there that they used. But what I wanted to show you is a couple things. First of all, as I mentioned, there's only one staple in this issue. They forgot to put the staple in here. Like I mentioned, that happened all the time. So it puts some stress. There's Spider-Man. He's looking good over here. And then, you know, where's the premiere of the Hulk? Here you got Pinocchio still going, Mark Trail, Bugs Bunny, Flintstones. There it is. First Hulk Sunday strip. And there it is in the comic book. So here you've got a comic book that carries not only Spider-Man, but also the Incredible Hulk every week. Okay. There's number 35. And there's number 36. 37, 38, 39, 40, and like I said, all these have Hulk and Spider-Man. There you go, look at that Christmas cover. It's absolutely gorgeous. They took a panel out of the Ramita artwork again, and they used it, and they added, again, a custom word balloon where he's saying, "My work is done, now I'll read the news comic book." It's a really nice cover. Okay, that was 41. And there is 42. And Volume 1, number 42, is the conclusion of 1978. It's December 31st, 1978. And like I said, at this point, they're running both Hulk and Spider-Man in every issue. And they would continue on, but they would eventually drop both Hulk and Spider-Man. Let me see if I can tell you real fast. They would drop the Incredible Hulk sometime between June of 79 and October of 79. Somewhere in that range. I don't have all those issues. I know for a fact that by November of 79, Hulk was no longer being carried by the Middlesex News comic book. And then eventually they would drop Spider-Man, but not for a long, long time. They would run with Spider-Man until sometime in 1981 they dropped Spider-Man, which is odd because most papers that picked up Spider-Man, they ran with Spider-Man forever. And as we know, the Spider-Man newspaper comic strip still continues to this day. So that's my collection of South Middlesex News comic books up through 1978. I have a bunch of others into 1979, but I'm basically out of time. And if you want to see more, just let me know. Leave me some comments. Let me know what you guys think about this sort of video. See ya. Bye.